All right, everybody. We're back with another episode of the South Texas High School Baseball Podcast. Today, we've got a guest on who I was trying to get on a couple months ago. He lives in Arizona at the moment, and so he told me he would be back for Thanksgiving. Sure enough, a couple months go by. I see on Instagram he posted on his story that he's in town. Shoot him a text, and he's here. So we made it happen. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, so this is Thanksgiving week. But today we've got on Aaron Hernandez, Moody alumni, A&M Corpus Christi alumni, and current player with the Angels and the Angels organization. So, Aaron, it's great to have you on.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you having me.
So let's go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself, give them some background. Let's first tell them what year you got drafted and your kind of your journey through the minor leagues so far.
Gotcha. So I went to Moody High School, like you said, A&M Corpus. Was drafted in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Been playing pro ball for the last 5.5 years now, almost 6 now. Didn't play in 18. We did this thing called I can't remember what the program was called, but it basically just shut pitchers down, build you up with some kind of weight system, and then get you going and kind of get you ready, get your feet under you, getting ready for your first year of pro ball. So my first year I started was 19. Was in high A the whole year. Dealt with a little bit of injuries here and there. And then obviously COVID, we weren't able to play. And then 21 was in AA in 21 and 22, and then was in AAA this year.
Okay. And so when you were in high A, where is the high A team for the Angels?
High A team at the time was in San Bernardino, California.
Okay.
Inland Empire 66ers was the team name. Now they're a low A team.
Okay.
That whole California league went from high A to low A.
Okay.
So now it's a whole low A division now, I guess. So, which I didn't agree with. I thought it was a pretty good high A league to play in. So, but not my decision. Above my pay grade.
Yeah. Well, what about the AA team? I know the AA team, y'all have one of the more unique names in minor league baseball. So tell us about that.
Yeah, the AA team is where it's at. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, it's the stadium and the team was founded in 2020.
Okay.
So
it's all new.
Brand new, yeah. So
okay.
3 years old. Yeah. So it's brand new. I want to say maybe like $65 million stadium, but I could be lowballing that. Yeah, Toyota Field, great atmosphere. Everybody over there in Huntsville, Alabama, loves their sports.
Okay.
So if they love their teams, if there's a team in there, everybody's out there. Great fan base. I really enjoyed my time down there. It's definitely probably one of the better minor league environments that I've played in.
Okay.
It was awesome.
And for the people who don't know what we're talking about, they are the Rocket City Trash Pandas.
Should have mentioned that.
Yeah, you're fine. So raccoons, basically, right?
Basically a raccoon, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a raccoon. That's the mascot. So it's a mascot like coming through a trash can or whatever.
Okay.
So, and the Rocket City comes from, they have a NASA kind of thing there. So I don't know if I'm assuming they don't launch any rockets out of there. It's pretty.
Yeah,
I think it's a city.
Like
I don't think they do. But they got a NASA center there. So it's basically in between. I want to say it's in Madison. So it's not actually in Huntsville. It's in Madison, Alabama.
Okay.
But that Rocket City they're trying to build like a little community around the stadium.
Okay.
And that's how they want to consider it, Rocket City.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I didn't realize that they were a brand new team.
Yeah, it's 3 years old, brand new team.
So that's cool. So when you were there, you were essentially getting to use everything in the first and second years.
Yeah, it was. I think there was more high school teams and other maybe college teams that played there before the actual minor league team did.
Wow.
So yeah, by the time we got in there, like I said, it was a year old, but
yeah, it
was pretty cool to be a part of all that.
Yeah, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but did y'all win a division title or something?
So in 22, we won the first half. So in the minor leagues, the playoffs goes by first half and second half champs. So 2 get in from each side of the division. In the first half, you clinch. Second half, you can clinch as well. Because in the minor leagues, you obviously got guys moving up and down, so teams change from first half to second half. So it's not like the big leagues where it's all year long.
Yeah.
So in 2022, we clinched the first half, which was awesome, by the way. The celebration, doing that kind of stuff in the locker room, popping bottles, the whole 9 yards. It was pretty cool. So we won the first half, second half, and best overall record. and then lost in the first round. But there's only 2 rounds in the playoffs, so
Okay.
I guess it's the semifinals. I guess so.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. It was one of the best teams I've ever been a part of. Everybody was cool.
Good.
Banner each other, have some fun with each other. Everybody got along great, so it was definitely awesome.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And so you said the start of this year, you started off in AAA.
Yep.
So tell us about this year. Kind of walk us through what happened.
So yeah, it started off in AAA. I'd kind of been dealing with some hip pain. I would say within the last year and a half up until that point, and we kind of managed it in the year before in 2022, and I'd had a hip surgery my freshman year of college, and it was kind of the same symptoms, so I kind of figured I probably had the same thing, so I was just trying to go as long as I possibly could without having to go under the knife or anything like that. Just had a little bit of a slip running in spring training, and we kind of try to take some steroid packs, stuff like that, to try to heal all the inflammation. First one worked, then it wore off. Tried a second one and just wasn't doing much at that point.
Yeah.
Probably had gotten worse while I was under the medication, and so I probably played 5-6 weeks at the most there, and then was sent back to Arizona, and then stayed there the rest of the year for rehab and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So whenever when you're at the point where you realize that you're gonna have to have surgery, is that just more frustrating than anything?
Oh yeah, 100%. I cried like a baby because I knew I was gonna end up having the surgery, and I knew I was gonna miss another season due to a surgery.
Yeah.
After coming off the end of missing maybe the last month or two of 2021, and then maybe 3 weeks to a month in 22. So I knew it was. I cried. My girlfriend was in town. One of my best friends was in town. His girlfriend was in town, and I threw a clean inning and came back in, and I mean it was shooting pain down my legs. So I was like, man, I just knew at that point I was like, I just can't go through it anymore. So finally spoke up, said something, and we just kind of got it squared away.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad. And so now you're in the tail end of the recovery process. Is that right?
Yep. Tail end. So
and so are you okay? So you just got cleared.
Just got cleared. Yeah, just got cleared to basically go to tolerance last week. So yeah, everything's been good up until then. God willing, it stays that way.
And so I guess throughout that process, are you still throwing, full strength, or are you maybe is it like kind of like a seated throw?
Yeah. So prior to the surgery, I was still trying to throw, just to try to keep the arm going.
Yeah.
I was still having a little bit of pain in the hip, and it wasn't nothing too stressful. It was just basically throwing 60 feet.
Okay.
And then get the surgery. I probably took maybe a month off. We probably stopped throwing maybe 2 weeks before the surgery, if I remember correctly. And then I didn't probably start throwing until maybe 3 weeks after the surgery. I was on crutches for 2.
Okay.
And then after that, I was doing seated throws, just kind of like 45 feet toss and just keep the arm moving.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not a big fan of taking a lot of rest throwing-wise. So, I was kind of trying to push it to where, like, hey, I want to toss at least. I don't know, I'm trying to throw foul pole to foul pole. I just want to get the arm moving a little bit. So, yeah, we kept throwing, and then we've just progressed ever since. So,
well, good. Yeah. Glad to hear you're cleared. You're good to go. As far as the I guess organizational outlook within the Angels, being in AAA, obviously in AAA, you're pretty close. You're a step away from the big leagues. So as far as the pitching depth, are you still in a starter role? Because I know historically that's what you had been. Or are you more of a reliever? And what does that look like? I've
been a reliever, I would say, since maybe the halfway point of last year, maybe before the halfway point of 2022. Coming off the TOS surgery I had, they had ended up moving me to the pen. They gave me a couple starts, moved me to the pen. Finally found a little bit of success out of the bullpen, and I like it. Just it's kind of tough. I love starting. Don't get me wrong. I love to start. I love knowing that you're going to throw. But sometimes, like, I've talked to other guys, that you sit there and start, and you start thinking a lot. Like, it's just like you're sitting there all day knowing you're going to throw, and not in a bad way, but the anxiety starts to build, and you're like, you just almost get ready to go. It's like you're anxious, ready to go. And but I enjoy either role. I mean, whatever role the team needed me to be, I was pretty much down for whatever. So, but I enjoy coming out of the pen. You get to throw a little bit more frequently. You don't have to, as a starter, if you have a bad outing, you got to wait another 5 to 7 days. So it would sit on you for a little while. But now that you out of a pin, it's like you're throwing 2-3 times a week. So I enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, good. So let's go back to draft day.
Okay.
And I know you had a draft watch party at A&M Corpus, and there's actually some overlap between you and I at A&M Corpus.
Right.
So I think your junior, well, actually you were drafted in 18, which meant you got drafted as a junior?
I was third year in school, but considered a redshirt sophomore on the field.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you had already been there a couple years. That was my freshman year. And so you were throwing as I was a freshman, and I was working in the athletic department. And so I was at games taking pictures and stuff. So I was really familiar with you, on top of already knowing your name from watching you at Moody. And so there's that overlap. So I took some pictures and videos of you. You had a watch party on campus. What was it like? Really just tell us the college story, because I know that there was some
a little bit of a hiccup
in there. And just kind of walk us through that up until draft day.
Yeah, so I signed my letter of intent when I was a senior at Moody. Got to stay home. I was pretty excited about that. Had a couple JUCO offers, but I mean, what was better than a Division I in your backyard, you know? So my family could come to every home game. They could travel to a away game if they wanted to. So I thought it was a good fit, and it ended up working out pretty well. But like you said, there were some hiccups in there. So I get on campus. At this point, I was riding my high horse a little bit, and so I had a fall semester where I ended up barely passing to make grades to be eligible for the spring. So I was like, whatever. I passed, got through. Spring was good. I had a decent freshman year. I was fortunate enough I got to start against Texas, which kind of blew up the whole my name and stuff like that. And that's when I guess you could say I was kind of tossed into the fire, thrown on the map or whatever. So I was fortunate to have a good night there. And then at that point we had a 2-week road trip.
Okay.
And so we would leave Tuesday morning and wouldn't come back till Sunday at 3 a.m. So I kind of took advantage of that, not having to go to class. Didn't go to class on the Mondays we were back because we got in at 3. I had one class on Monday, so I was like, all right, well, I'm not going. I'll blow it off. It probably didn't help that they didn't take attendance either. So it was one of those big classes in the auditorium. So I wasn't going, and then kind of got comfortable for those 2 weeks not going to class. And then, I probably didn't go to class for like a month straight. And it's funny to laugh at now, but my mom was mad when she found out. Oh, she was mad. But ended up not passing a single class in my spring semester freshman year.
Gosh.
Not a single class. Like, you got to try not to do that.
Do you remember what classes you were taking? Because freshman level classes.
I didn't go for half the semester, so I don't even remember. It was probably just your basic stuff. English, science, maybe. I couldn't tell you. I don't even remember. But I remember walking into Jennifer Baker's office and her telling me, like, yeah, you're not going to be eligible to play next year. And I went home and I lost it. I was like, no, what am I going to – I got to tell my parents. I got to tell my friends, my family. I got to tell my coaches. So, that was pretty tough on me. My mom was even tougher on me after that. She was like, you're not doing this again, making sure I was doing everything. So I pretty much had to take summer classes for the rest of my college career. Took some classes. Started building up, was out my whole sophomore year. I remember even having guys come in, like JUCO guys come in the next year, and we're talking, and they didn't know my story. They didn't know I was sitting out. And then once I would finally tell them, they were like, oh, dang, like, I didn't know that's what it was. And then I had to hear it from Coach Malone and every other practice. Whenever he was in a mood, I was the scapegoat. He was coming after me. I remember one time we had our pro day at Whataburger Field, and they let me throw. Obviously, they let me get in there and throw. I was still a full go for practices and stuff like that. I just obviously couldn't play, so I could play in the fall.
So you were still with the team and everything.
Still with the team, everything. Like,
just
was at the
play,
home games,
travel.
but I was in shorts, so I looked like a team manager.
Yeah.
Sitting around, but we had a pro day, and I threw pretty well. And Malone ends up telling this story to everybody in the in the huddle after one of these practices, and he's like, "Yeah, man, these scouts are telling me like, oh well, if you throw this guy on Friday nights or whatever, y'all might win the conference. Y'all have a good chance to win and all this kind of stuff, you know." And he's like telling them, "Well, man, I can't get this guy to go to class." And he's like, but he's a little bit more energetic with it.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, I can't get this guy to go to class, and you seniors shouldn't even want to talk to this guy. Like, you shouldn't even look at him. I don't even." And he's not looking at me at all. He doesn't want to look at me. He's just talking to everybody else while I'm standing off to the left or somewhere. And he's just hammering me the whole time. But, you know, that was what I had to deal with. That was my own fault. So, ended up passing all the way. I remember, I'll never forget the feeling I had last home game of the year at the Island. It was senior day.
Mm-hmm.
So a bunch of seniors were obviously getting shipped off, going out, what if they were playing pro ball or not. Everybody's crying. It's a sad day. Like, everybody's leaving. I'm sitting there like, man, probation's lifted that day. I'm off. I'm ready to go. And I was happy. But inside, I wasn't showing it to nobody.
Yeah,
I didn't want to bring anybody down or anything. I got to make it look like I was selfish or whatever. But inside, I was screaming for joy, like, oh man, now I can finally go. So then I end up not having any problems with grades after that.
Yeah.
Maybe a little hiccup here and there in my junior year, but after that I was fine. And then got to play summer ball in the Cape that year after my sophomore year, 2017.
Yeah, I read about that.
Only played half because I had to finish summer classes. So I showed up the second half. But man, that was also a great 6 weeks of baseball that I was a part of.
What team did you play with?
I was with the Wareham Gatemen.
Okay. Where is that out of?
That's in the Cape Cod out there, and but it's not actually on the island, or it's not on the Cape. So when you walk around, you'll see like at some of the stores in Wareham, it'll be like, we are on the Cape or something like that. Okay. So it's like a big thing out there where Wareham people try to say, oh, it's part of Cape Cod, but then other people like across the bridge would try to say, well, it's not part of Cape. Like, that's just not it's not a part of it. So, but I enjoyed it. That was some of the best baseball I've at the time that I had been part of. 6 weeks, I'd finally got to play with not worrying about school. I could actually go out there and play every day. And didn't have a worry in the world at that point. So I was like, I really enjoyed that. And the guys there were awesome too. So, and even my host family was awesome. I still keep in touch with them every now and then, here and there.
Are any of the guys that you played with in the Cape Cod that you remember or might have been teammates with, are any of them in the pros right now?
Oh yeah, there's quite a few of them. I've played against a couple of them. One guy that stands out, Willie McIver, I think, is it, or MacGyver or something like that.
I think that sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's with the Rockies. I have him on Instagram, but I played against him in AAA. I played against him in High A in 21. Then there's some other guys on the team. I'd have to look at the roster to remember. I'm awful with names and stuff like that. So, but yeah, there's I would say there's more than a handful.
Cool.
I would say probably 75% of them got drafted for sure.
Okay.
As far as they went, sometimes I just lose track with a lot of that stuff, you know.
Okay, so you played in the Cape Cod League, and then you only got to play half the season, really, because you had to come back for summer classes. After that, you go into your junior year, right? Mm-hmm. And then tell us about that. So
yeah, then going out to the Cape Cod, obviously people had kind of knew the name a little bit from my freshman year, and then I was kind of nowhere to be found my sophomore year, obviously, not having any playing time at all. So leading up to that, I found an advisor at the time, which ends up becoming your agent. Jose Trevino's guy at the time was who I ended up going with, and he's still my agent today. So that's how I was able to get connected with that guy.
Is it still the same?
I still have the same guy. Yeah, still the same one.
But he has a different guy now?
I believe so. Yeah. Okay. So he's that's how I met my agent now, and so he kind of helped me through the draft process, the whole thing. And at this point, they make you – now they don't, but each team had a questionnaire. So I don't know how many teams, 30 or 32. I always get confused, but you had to fill out one for every single one, every single one, and it was the same stuff for every one.
Yeah.
And I always saw like, why do they not just have one generic questionnaire
that everybody?
And of course, after the year I get drafted, they have one, and it's just one you got to fill out. I remember there was times where I'd like misplace some because they were in packets everywhere. I was bad at that kind of stuff, but then you deal with that. You deal with questionnaires, and then once it starts getting like in the fall and the spring a little bit, teams send the area scouts down, and you meet with them. Some obviously, if you're one of those big time prospects, then it's GM, everybody, national cross checker, everybody you're meeting with. So it was fun. I actually enjoyed it. That's what I try to tell a lot of guys now. Like whenever I do talk to them that are going through it, I said just enjoy it because I enjoyed every bit of it. It was cool. Like it was very like, I mean, I dreamed of that kind of stuff, but to see it and like seeing all the scouts watch you pitch, like I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
It was so cool. I'll never forget throwing at Oklahoma my junior year. Oklahoma had Kyler Murray at the time and Steele Walker, so those are two big names. And I'm sure they had some other guys pitcher-wise that were there. And then obviously me. So I mean, there's probably 40 scouts in the stands, and I remember getting to the bullpen and they're sitting behind the bullpen watching, and I literally was messing with the dirt, and I look up and I see all of them standing there. I was like, and I said to myself, I was like, holy crap, like that's a lot of people watching right now. Not that it scared me or anything, but it was just like it was insane to see. Just like I said, I mean you dream of that kind of stuff, and then for it to actually happen, it was pretty cool. So the whole process was awesome. I enjoyed it. Near the draft, the scouts try to get a little like pushy with you, like, hey, I need a number, what you're gonna sign for, like. But I never really gave them anything. I let my agents or advisors at the time handle all that kind of stuff. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. You only get to do it once, so unless you're fortunate enough to do it in high school and college. But I was only fortunate enough to do it in college. So like I said, I enjoyed it. Had a decent year, my junior year, and then was drafted. So
yeah, your junior year. What's like your favorite memory from your last year being there at the Island?
It's being with all those guys, man. I still talk to, I would say, more than half of those guys. I mean, we still take vacations here and there.
Yeah.
The team was awesome. Those are, like I said, those are some of those guys will be standing in my wedding someday if I ever have that lucky chance to get married. But yeah, I enjoyed hanging out with those guys. I would say the best memory we had probably, and I still think that we talk about the most is sweeping the Clayburgh here. I don't know if it had ever been done. Maybe it had, but it hadn't. It had been a while since we had done it. Swept the Clayburgh. We played, I want to say, Nichols Friday night. Dustin Lacaze threw very well that night. I think he may have taken a no-hitter into the ninth, I believe.
Okay.
And we blew them out. And then we played Santa Barbara the Saturday night. I threw well. My other friend came in, threw well. Cole Carter came in, threw well. And we ended up winning a close one, like 2-1. I think they had just – I remember Malone talking about it for a while. They had just – I want to say they had just got off a College World Series berth, or maybe the year before.
Santa Barbara, yeah.
So there was like a year or two removed from being in there. So obviously a small mid-major school that hadn't really done nothing or put themselves on the map. I thought it was pretty cool for us to go out there and beat them. And then we get Mississippi State on Sunday.
Nice. Then
we beat them 6-3, I believe, or something like that. And so we swept the whole weekend. It was a great weekend. We had good crowds then. So that was probably one of the better memories we had as a whole.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
And so when you got drafted, so probably, I guess by the time that season is wrapping up, you know you're going to get drafted?
Yeah, but I never really tried to let myself think that. You know, like I always thought anything could happen, anything.
Yeah.
They could be like, oh, well, we didn't like this, or we didn't like that, or we don't know if you're ready, kind of thing. So obviously I had a good feeling I was. Now, to be drafted where I was, I didn't think I was going to go that high. Yeah. The whole year I'm thinking like, man, well, if I go anywhere in the top like 5 to 10 rounds, like I'd probably take that. Like I'm ready to go. Like I think that's pretty cool. And then to be drafted that high, I thought it was insane. It was mind blowing.
Yeah, and you were third round.
91.
93.
93rd.
93 overall.
Yeah, 93 overall. So just to be even going in the top 100, I thought it was awesome. Like, it was cool. I remember my agent, like, telling me stuff. I remember Rudy Vasquez, the scout who drafted me for the Angels.
Okay.
He was like, he was telling me, like, oh, don't be surprised if you go, like, in the top 3 or whatnot. And I was like, whatever, bro. Like, you just blowing smoke up my butt. You know what I'm saying? Like, and my agents would tell me, like, yeah, I mean, you got to think these guys are only seeing certain part of the country and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, yeah. So I didn't think too much into it. I legit thought, like, oh, I'll maybe go like 6 or 7. If I go in the 5th, I thought that'd be awesome too.
Yeah.
But yeah, to be drafted in the 3rd round, I was like, this is pretty cool, you know. So it was better than I expected. So
then at that point, because you were expecting really anywhere from 5 to 10 round, it was a no-brainer for you to just. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I pretty much told my advisors or agents now at the time, like, I don't want to go back.
Okay.
Like, give me what you can give me.
Yeah.
I'm not going back. But obviously we didn't tell them that, you know, because then you lose leverage.
Yeah.
So it was like, so for me, I had a little bit of leverage over them because since I was a redshirt sophomore, I still had 2 years of eligibility. Mm-hmm. So it's not like where, say, a guy only has 1 year left. It's like, well, you only got 1 year and you're putting all your eggs in one basket kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I had 2 years. So that probably helped a little bit. Being a little older, being 21 at the draft time probably didn't help as much. But either way, I mean, I did pretty well. So I wasn't complaining about it at all.
Great. And so then whose idea initially was it to have that draft party on campus?
Malone had I had wanted to have something. We just didn't know where it was going to be. I was initially thinking somewhere at my family's house where everybody can go. It just kind of sucked that it was like middle of the day on the middle of the week.
Yeah.
Like a Tuesday.
It was an odd time.
Yeah, it was an odd time. So it wasn't like how the first and I believe the second rounds were. They're like Monday night. So everybody would be off. I think it was maybe like noon, 1 o'clock on a Tuesday. So I remember we were coming home from a road trip. I believe Abilene was our last road trip, and we kind of got screwed out of a conference tournament berth at that point. And then he had called me up to the bus. We're kind of doing our end of the year exit meetings and stuff like that. And he was like, "Yeah, we want to have this party for you, and I mean it's a big thing for everybody." And I was like, "Of course." Like, I mean, obviously I wouldn't be in this position without this program too. So let's all share it. So it was kind of his thing, and then showed up Tuesday, I think at noon, and I believe we only sat around for 30, 45 minutes because I guess with this 3rd round and on, they're ready to go. It's you get 45 seconds to pick, I think, or something like that. So it kind of rolled through pretty quickly. So we ended up probably being there for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours.
Okay, well, that's good.
No, but I enjoyed it. I mean, we had some of my teammates were still in town, so some of my teammates were able to come. Obviously, most of my family was able to be there. But yeah, I thought it was a good showing. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I didn't realize that it's shorter time in the later rounds, but that makes sense.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
If it were like the first rounds, you'd be there all day.
Yeah.
Because I went to Blake Mitchell's draft party, and they were talking. We hope he goes top 10, not only because that'd be awesome,
right?
But also we don't have to be here as late.
Exactly.
Like if he'd have gone, like they were saying it'll either be like top 10 or top 25.
Right.
And if he drops to like 25, that's going to be like another like 2 hours.
Yeah, because I mean, what is it like? I think it's like 10 or 12 minutes a pick.
I think it's 10.
Yeah,
it's either, something like that.
I mean, you think that. I mean, it can take a while. And especially you got the stuff like they say the draft starts at 6, but then 30 minutes of all that everything, the talking, all this kind of stuff. So, yeah, by the time the first pick's in, it's already 30 minutes past the hour. So, definitely the earlier the better.
Yeah. All right, so that's all your college. That's draft day. Talk about your time at Moody, and you guys went to the state tournament. Tell us about that. What was some of your favorite memories from your time at Moody? And did you get to choose to go to Moody, or did you?
So that's probably a good place to start. So I was living in Kingsville at the time with Mom.
Okay.
And I was going out to. I started off at Gillette Middle School there, and then went out to Ricardo Middle School. I want to say my 7th and 8th grade years, and my mom at the time didn't want me to leave. Mm-hmm. Obviously, when you leave your parents, you're 18 going off to college, right? It's a normal kind of thing. I was 14. She's like, I don't want you to leave, like, I'm just going down the road, obviously, but she didn't want me to go anywhere else. She wanted me to go to Bishop at the time. And I want to say that her and my stepdad had a conversation with the head coach, like, oh, yeah, we might get him to come here. And so Mom was like, you're going to go here, like, you're not leaving. And I mean, we fought over it. Like, we had an argument over it. But it's always where I always wanted to go to Moody High School. I mean, I grew up right there before I moved out to Kingsville. Mom,
okay.
I mean, 2 blocks from the high school.
Yeah.
Grew up going to the practices, grew up going to every playoff run they'd make. We'd go to all the games and stuff like that. So it's always where I wanted to go. And finally, my mom was like, all right, whatever, you can go. And so got there my freshman year, and, you know, I met more best friends that I still talk to this day, you know, talk to on a daily basis. As far as memories go, I mean, obviously that 2013 year was awesome. I remember when the spring came along, and Coach Gutiel was sitting there, and he was he let us have it, but he was having a pretty animated speech about us being ranked like 25th in the state or something like that. And other schools probably think like, oh, we're top 25, like we're ranked, like it's probably good. And
let's go.
He was just like saying that's disrespectful for them to rank us that low. And so we kind of took that on as disrespect, and, you know, we made a run at it. Probably had if I remember correctly, I don't know if we got off to too hot of a start to where it was like we're still kind of trying to find our identity. You know, we had a lot of juniors and sophomores. We were a pretty young team. A lot of the juniors were guys that were playing last year. Maybe not all the time, but we're playing a little bit. Most of them had played every day. So we're still kind of a youngish team that nobody really knew. We came out firing, and then, you know, the playoff run was awesome. Playoff run was so awesome. First round, I think we dominated. Usually we play a little bit. I think we won district. So when you win district, you play the 4th seed of another district. So it's easier first round. Usually, yeah. So
unless you're the district that plays the 4th seed out of CCISD,
exactly.
Then you're playing a stacked king in the first round.
Or Carroll, or not Carroll, probably winning their division or their district. But yeah, you're playing a good Corpus team. So I can't remember who we played. I want to say maybe it was Rome or something like that. But I remember getting to the 3rd round, and we were looking who we were going to play, and I think at the time it was Medina Valley who was supposed to win that series, and I think that's when we played Rome. Rome ended up upsetting them, so we were looking forward. We had already, I guess some coaches had probably done some scouting and looked at them previously, so we kind of already had an idea that's who we were going to play. Well, they get bounced out. We play Rome. We sweep them. Rome was on like a princess, what do they call it in the March Madness? Cinderella story kind of run. Yeah,
it did the hard work for you.
Yeah, exactly. So that gave us a little bit of an easier road, and then we got to the 4th round, and we played somebody out of the Austin area, but it ended up turning into a 1 game, I believe.
Okay.
And we played in Laredo. Ended up winning that one, and I just remember like once we won that game, I remember walking off like we're going to the 5th round, and you know, growing up as a Moody baseball fan, like 5th round was regional finals, where it's like Moody, Cal Allen. Moody's like, you know, it's always a big game, you know. And at the time, Cal Allen was in the 4th round playing San Antonio Alamo Heights. Okay. And so we're thinking like, all right, we're gonna play Cal Allen, like we're about to be in the Moody legacy. I'm getting chills thinking about it. We're gonna be in that kind of legacy Moody Cal Allen kind of game. And we're already like, oh, it's going to be jam-packed, all 3 games at Whataburger. Like, you know, so we were looking forward to it. And then Alamo Heights beats Cal Allen in a 3 game. So not that it was a letdown. Alamo Heights was obviously good. They ended up beating us game 1. But we were really looking forward to Moody Cal Allen that year. And then obviously we go on to win the 5th round. We end up winning 2 in San Antonio and celebrating. I never forget jumping around with everybody. That was awesome. And then we get to the state playoffs. We play White House opening round, and their starting pitcher is 2-time Super Bowl MVP Patrick Mahomes. So we still talk about it to this day, where we basically bounced him out of baseball. He could have played another game after. We were not going to let. We were telling him we bounced him out of baseball. So that was pretty cool. We won a tight one. I didn't have my best game. I remember making 2 errors and 2 runs scored, so I was pretty I was pretty hard on myself after that one. Then we go and play Tomball in the state championship game, and one big inning. I think they put 4 on us. In high school baseball, it's all about momentum.
Yep.
And they had the momentum from the get-go, and we just really couldn't get anything going after that. So offense as a whole in that tournament kind of struggled a little bit. Not struggled. We weren't the same team we had been all playoffs.
Yeah.
But credit to those guys. I remember that team was pretty good. They had Nick Banks, who went on to A&M.
Yeah.
Playing. I don't know if he's still playing now. I would assume so. Max Duggar, I think is his name, was the pitcher.
Okay.
I know he ended up making his debut, but a lot of those guys were already signed Division I.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool. And I had heard I think those guys that grew up playing together. So
yeah, and plus playing a Tomball, there's no excuse to not be in the state championship.
Right, yeah.
You have Premier Baseball at Texas.
Got everything,
there. You
yeah.
have every baseball resource that you need
is
in Tomball. So that makes sense.
Right, yeah. I mean, we still say it to this day. If we were to play them again, we'd probably win. But that's just how baseball goes. Especially in those one games, you just you never know.
Yeah,
you never know. But man, the whole year was fun. Like I said, we still get together and we talk about the what ifs and stuff like that.
And some of your notable teammates from that team, Michael Cantu, Kenny Sines,
okay. Ricky Gonzalez, Johnny Gonzalez, Tres Luna. I'm trying to think. Chris Estrada. I'm trying to think the guys that signed on to go play college ball.
Mm-hmm.
Scotty Olivo. Trying to think who else. I think that's probably it. Maybe from that team that was in the starting 9. But you look at our rotation. I mean, Kenny and Mike were throwing every other game. So me and Johnny and sometimes Tress and Ricky Gonzalez. Those guys, we didn't have to throw very much.
Yeah.
So, but all 4 of our top 4 starters, Mike, Kenny, Johnny, and me, we're all Division I signees. Yep. So it's kind of hard to find that in any other schools, especially here in Corpus area. So, we were pretty good.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think if you had gone to Bishop, y'all would have just totally dominated? Because in 2013, 2014, that's when they were really good.
Yeah, they were pretty good that year. I mean, I definitely think we would have made some noise there too. Not saying if I was there, but I mean they were already good playing. Before, before me. So, I mean, that would have been cool to play, but I don't know if there's anything like playing for Moody High School. It's very premier, prestige high school. A lot of tradition behind it.
Yep.
And that's mainly the reason why anybody wants to go there.
Yep. Moody Magic.
Moody Magic, exactly. Who doesn't want to be a part of that? So, it was cool. And then I really enjoyed my time there. A lot of the stuff that I learned from those coaches, I still use today.
Yeah. I
still have that same kind of thought process, same kind of work ethic. The biggest thing I can tell you that I learned from there was, I mean, my parents would obviously teach me this, but sometimes when you're growing up, you don't think your parents are always right. You don't think they're the smartest people,
Yep.
Until you get older, then you're like, oh, man, they were right. But
I know what they're talking about.
Marco Medina if there was one thing he was very hard on us, it was the yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. And I use that every time I'm talking to anybody, whether they're my age, younger, older, doesn't matter. It's always yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And I remember one time, this was maybe when I was a freshman, and I said yeah to him, and he was like, yeah, but with a little bit of extra behind it. And I remember I perked up. I was like, oh, crap, like, they're for real. And then he starts going off about other stuff, like just random stuff on me, and I'm like, damn, all right, well, I guess I'll never say yeah ever again. And like you said, he would constantly be honest about that kind of stuff. And now when I say I'm out of state, like out of Texas is kind of normal. You say that to people. Mm-hmm. I've been everywhere, and some people get mad when I say it. Like I've had coaches like, "Don't call me sir." Like that's I'm not that old or whatever. And it's like I'm not saying it because you're old. It's just out of respect. I've had waitresses, waiters. Like I had one waitress in Arizona where she was. I was saying yes, ma'am to her, and she walked back and then came back and I said it again, and she was like, do you think I'm old or something? I was like, oh, no, ma'am. Like, it's just out of respect. She's like, okay, because, like, I was walking back, and and telling my coworkers, like, he's saying ma'am to me, like, does he think I'm old? And I was like, no, it's not like that. Like, it's just out of respect. Like, I don't mean to, like, call you old or make you feel old. It's just part of my vocabulary. So that was probably one of the biggest things I learned from there.
Yeah. And are all those coaches still there?
Mike Medina's not.
Okay.
I know Cody Martinez is not. Mike Medina is now the head coach at Bishop.
Okay. Yes, he is.
Yeah, head coach at Bishop now. Cody Martinez, I think, is now coaching at Carroll.
Okay.
Head coach is still Joe Cudiel. Marco is still there. Coach Diaz, Richard Diaz, retired, I think, a couple years back, who was sneaky one of the best coaches for one reason, because he wasn't going to be the guy to jump on you and let you have it. Like, he was very laid back and cool. And I don't mean that in a bad way. He was really cool. He was kind of like, he was the guy where, like, when the coaches were on you, he was like, hey, it's all right, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, so it was good to have those two kind of coaches. And I think that's why that coaching staff meshed so well. Yeah. But don't get me wrong, he would say some stuff here and there, like, get honest. But it was more of, like, in a lesser way, unlike when the other coaches, they're screaming and they're I mean, they're in you. They're tearing you another one. So it was cool. The coaching staff was awesome. Coaching staff was great.
Yeah. At that time, too, in 2013, who was the, I guess, other powerhouse in Corpus? Or was everybody good?
Carroll was good. Ray was good. Carroll had another group of juniors a year older than me that they had. That was their main core. They had some guys my age as well there, too. Carroll was really good. I'm trying to think. I want to say King was pretty good, too. We probably had that whole district was really, really good.
Were y'all all the same size, or was it 5A, 4A yet?
I want to say Carroll and King were 5A at the time. Okay. This was before 6A.
Before 6A.
Yeah, so they were 5A, but we'd still play them sometimes in tournaments here and there. So they were like, I would say Carroll was probably the more known name because they had just had Courtney Hawkins there.
Just
so like
been to that tournament in North
Carolina.
Right, yeah.
So exactly, yeah. So they were a pretty big team in the area. Ray was pretty good. They always played us well. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, those are probably out of those four teams: us, Carroll, King, and Ray.
Yeah.
Flower Bluff was good. Flower Bluff was tough.
They were really good for a few years. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Some Mims, maybe they had a guy who played football and Colton Mims. I don't know if that's the right name.
I don't know.
But I think he played football and was like maybe their shortstop pitcher or something like that. But playing over at the Bluff was always kind of tough too. It was a tough little place to play, and they always played us pretty well too. So other than that, I mean, and then we played a bunch of Laredo schools. Laredo schools are all right. Yeah. We kind of go in there and beat up on them a little bit. Yeah. 14, we next year we pretty much returned to everybody. I think we lost a couple seniors.
Okay.
But like I said, we had guys to fill that hole. I thought we were a little better in 14. Obviously, we had the experience. We knew what it felt like to make that run to a state tournament. And we dominated. We hit the ground running from game one. We dominated from game one. And we were number one in state the whole year. I want to say we got up to like 4th or 5th in the country that year too by Max Prep. So that was kind of cool. Yeah. Being recognized nationally. Yep. And then I remember this is probably maybe later in the year. Kenny Signs, obviously the ace, face of the program. He was by far our best player on the team, I would say. And that's no hate or no discredit to any of the other guys on the team. Like, I'll be the first one to say it. That guy was unbelievable. Yeah. Like, it was still one of the best players I've ever seen play baseball at any level. He had cut his hand open sliding home. We were in Laredo. His left hand, too. So he kind of gashed it all the way open. And so once he was hurt, we were like, at least I felt a little like, dang, like our top dog's out, you know. So we had to step up a little bit. I had to pitch a little bit more. Johnny had to pitch a little bit more. But you know, he came back from the stitches and all that kind of stuff right in time for the playoffs. Okay. And of course, Kenny doing Kenny things comes out, and I think he goes like 3 for 4 with like 2 doubles and a homer and strikes out 12 in game 1 of the playoffs. And it was like, all right, well, I guess he's fine, you know? So
yeah, because just took a little break.
Yeah, just took a little break. He was letting the arm rest a little bit. And then we go into the second round. I remember this. We still talk about this to this day, too. Second round, we're playing Victoria East. We're supposed to play a 3-game series. We won the toss.
Mm-hmm.
And first game was supposed to be Friday night, but there was rain.
Okay.
And our first game was supposed to be in Victoria, I believe.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. And we decided, like, all right, well, we end up getting rained out. So we're like, all right, we'll play you 1 game. And obviously, we're riding on a high horse. Like I said, number 1 team in the state. I think we had maybe lost 2 games all year up until that point.
Man.
And obviously, one of the games that I threw, we lost. So it was probably my fault. But, yeah, we end up playing Victoria East in a 1-game series. And, you know, like I said, those 1 games, you just never know.
Yep.
Doesn't matter who you are, how good you are. You just never know. That's the crazy thing about baseball, and that's why we play. You never know what can happen.
Yep.
And just something about that day, I'll be honest, it didn't feel right. Like there was something. It was just like it's gonna be a tough one today. It didn't feel like we were gonna go out there and mow those guys down, you know. And sure enough, they got us. They shut us out 2-0. And then of course I made the last out too. So it was tough. I remember seeing all those guys. Like man, like that was the real, like I felt like we really legit had a good chance to win. Obviously, we were number 1 team in state, and I think if looking back at it now, when we would look back at the teams who ended up going to state, I felt like we probably could have ran the table a little bit and at least got in there and made some noise, you know.
Because did East make it to state that year?
East ended up making it to state all the way that year. They went on a little Cinderella run, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
And not discrediting those guys. They were good.
It just wasn't expected.
Right, it wasn't expected. Yeah, no. Obviously, I don't think anybody expected them to beat us either. So yeah, they ended up winning, or I think they lost to Aledo, if I remember correctly.
Sounds right.
Because I think Aledo had won state and in football and baseball that year.
Probably.
So, which we ended up getting bounced in the second round, and that was it. And then senior year, it wasn't the same. We had a lot of new faces in there, a lot of young guys, and which we didn't get the job done, you know. So then I was part of the class in the 20-something year playoff run that Moody had. Yeah, so I still get crap from some of my buddies, like, you were the class that stopped the tradition of playoffs or whatever. And I was like, thanks, man, appreciate it. So,
man.
But yeah, I enjoyed those. That 13 and 14 team was freaking unbelievable. We were so good, and we always joke around saying we're probably the best team to not win the state title in Moody's history, but that's up for debate.
Yeah, I remember watching you guys play on TV. It was I think it was on Fox Sports Southwest back when it was
before it was Bally,
before Bally bought it. But I remember watching the state tournament on TV and watching you guys play. I'm not from Corpus. I'm from Mathis. Right. So, like, right outside of Corpus.
Right.
I wanted to go to school at Carroll so bad.
Yeah.
Because, like, they were the talk of everybody.
Right, yeah, everybody,
number one in the state, number 1 in the nation, or however high they got. And so it was like, Carroll. And I'm like, Mathis is not good at anything. So, like, I want to go to school at Carroll.
Right.
I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I want to go.
I want to figure a way to go,
I didn't end up going. I ended up going to school. At the time, Carroll was talking to town. I remember watching Moody play. And then, in 2017, Vets makes it to state. Vets is the new talk of the town when they open. But by that time, you're graduated.
Yeah, I was already.
Yeah,
so you're
on the
college.
island.
Yeah, I was already halfway through college.
Skipping class.
Yeah, skipping class. Yeah, exactly. Sleeping in.
All right. So do you keep up at all? I know you're probably busy rehabbing, and during the season you're probably not keeping up much. But with the local scene here with baseball.
Yeah, I try to. Especially when I come back from the season, I'm obviously in here working out with Jeff when I'm in town, and talk with Mike. I talk with Jeff. My dad keeps up with it, so he's the one that's usually keeping me in the loop with everything. So I try to. Now Ricky Gonzalez, my teammate in high school, he coaches at Ray now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I'll talk to him every once in a while, see what's going on around there, and try to get a feel of what kind of talent's around here and stuff like that. So, yeah, I try to keep up here and there.
And then once a local guy, you know, however often it ends up being, once they go pro, do you guys kind of reach out like, hey man, if you need anything?
If I know him prior to that, yeah, I will. I haven't reached out to Blake. I don't know if I've ever met him. But I'm always happy for those guys. Like, it's just better for the city.
Yeah.
You know, it's awesome. It brings the spotlight down here. I mean, Jose says it all the time, and I 100% agree with him. It's some of the best baseball you can find in the state of Texas. And I tell my friends that are from up north, like the Dallas, Houston area, they're like, oh, it's whatever. Y'all. They make fun of me. They call it the Corpus Christi tournament. We don't play nobody until we get to state. I tell them all the time, last time I checked, y'all didn't play for a state title.
That's true.
Maybe they did. Maybe I don't remember if they said they do, but they used to give me crap about it. But I remember I did take one of my college teammates when my brother was at Moody in 2017 when they played Ray at Whataburger? For the regional final. And I told him, and obviously he played at Allen High School, so football is king over there.
Oh, yeah.
He played with Kyler, and he would tell me about all the crowds for football that they would get in their $60 million stadium that seats like 20,000 or whatever. Yep. So he'd show me that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, let me take you to a game. Like, this is the perfect time to go. Yeah. And he was like, damn, there's a lot of people for a high school baseball game. Like, we don't get this kind of stuff up north. And I was like, so I'm telling you, man, these people love their baseball down here. Yep. The Corpus Christi people love their baseball down here. So, and it's good talent. There's a lot of good talent coming in and out of here too. Yeah,
man. There's just nothing beats a local matchup in the regional semis, regional final at Whataburger Field.
No, it's just
perfect.
Yeah, it can't be beat.
Especially Corpus schools.
Yeah, especially Corpus schools, and especially the later it is in playoffs, the better it is.
Yeah, exactly.
The later it is in playoffs, the better it is, and you know, whether you're a Moody fan or a Ray fan or anything, like, I used to go to games when it was Carroll and somebody else, like, just because it was a local team, you know. Just to go out and just show my support, you know, it's good baseball too, you know. So it's definitely cool. Like I said, most of those people, obviously, they're probably fans, but a lot of them are there just to watch some good high school baseball, you know.
Yeah. Yep. And then you obviously probably have a handful of scouts every so often to come down.
Yeah, every so often you get that one player who's getting some national media coverage and looking to be drafted, so that always helps too.
Give us your words of wisdom for the younger players. For the high schoolers, the college guys, what would you say to them really about anything? It can be about baseball. It can be about weight room. It can be about school.
I mean, it sounds so cliche, but, like, don't stop working. Mm-hmm. Don't stop. Just go. There's a lot more days where I'm sitting there thinking, like, do I really want to do this today, than there is where it's like, all right, let's do it. You know, there's a lot more days, especially in the rehab process. You know, there's a lot of days where I was sitting there like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I legit thought about hanging it up, like, just because it's my second surgery in 3 years. Mm-hmm. But I always kept that same mentality of constantly just working, just one day at a time. Don't worry about the long-term goal. Set short-term goals for yourself to where you can achieve something in a day. Like, hey, I want to do set a goal out today. I want to do this. Mm-hmm. And by the time you look back at it, it's like, all right, well, I've achieved my long-term goal because of all these short-term stuff. So my thing is just don't ever stop working. Like, I've even had conversations with my little cousin about this. Like, don't stop. You never know what's going to happen. You never know. You can be a late bloomer. Something can happen. Anything can happen. Yeah. You know, so just don't ever stop working. And I also think that it helps in the real world too. Like, if you come out here and you want to quit on baseball because it's hard, then you're going to have that same mentality in the real world job, because it's not going to get any easier. You know, it's going to be just as hard. There's going to be people you don't want to listen to, where you think they might be spewing a bunch of dumb stuff out of their mouth, and you got to take it. Maybe they're your boss, or maybe you just got to say yes sir, yes ma'am, whatever, and just kind of keep going. But that's really all I can say. I mean, everybody's kind of different in their own kind of ways, you know. Some things work for other people, but if you just have that work ethic of never stopping and just always constantly keep going, whether it's in baseball, football, basketball, or you're a nurse or anything like that, do not stop. Like, if you keep working, the work ethic will pay off. It will eventually pay off, whether it's, like I said, in the sport or in the real world. Yeah.
Just to kind of touch on it too, that we've talked about with all the other guys, that minor league grind, What's like the it can be toughest or funniest memory, or just kind of how did I end up here? Like I'm in a random gas station in this middle of nowhere town in high A ball.
So I don't know if there's a specific story. Let's go back to the grind. Like it's obviously tough, right? You're playing every single day. You got to do stuff every day. It's the same thing every single day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough, but I will say it's gotten a lot better since I was drafted. When I was drafted, it was, I know I sound like an old head saying that. I was only drafted 5 years ago, but a lot has changed in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
When I was drafted, you were basically on your own. You had to pay for your own housing. So we had 9 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment in California, 2 to each room, 3 in the master.
Man.
But I enjoyed it. Like obviously you're coming straight out of college, so like you're used to having roommates. Now you just have roommates in pro ball, So I thought it was pretty cool. Obviously I'd rather have my space, but I mean it is what it is. It's gotten a lot better now. They're obviously taking care of your housing and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
So memory wise, I remember I will say this. We tried to float the river in Tri-City, Washington.
Okay.
So we were in this was high A in 2021. We were like, all right, it's Memorial Day. Let's go float the river or whatever, right? Well, we tried to go float this river, and people were telling us, like, yeah, you can float it. Well, this river is like, I mean, it's not the river in Concan, Texas.
Yeah,
it's not made for tubing. It's made for boats going in and out of that thing. So people are boating up and down, speedboats, like pontoons, all that kind of stuff. Well, we keep getting pushed to the bank with the wake of all the boats passing by.
Yeah.
And it's probably maybe, I don't know, 1.5 mile, 2 mile river float, or river, not a float, but a river. And, I mean, we probably made it 1/4 mile, and we just kept getting pushed back, and we were sitting there for an hour and a half, and I'm like, dude, let's just get out of here. I'm done. Like, I'm done with this. And so we ended up picking the tube up. We went through a whole bunch of stuff just to get the tubes from, like, host families and all this kind of stuff, and it was just a mess, and we ended up just walking back another 1/2 mile to get back to the truck. So it was really, I wouldn't say a waste of time. It was cool. We enjoyed it, being around each other, but I would probably say that's the one that probably sticks out the most. A lot of the other stuff probably is best left off camera.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys spent a lot of time together.
Well, I guess the other memory I could say would be celebrating, like in 2022. Like I thought that was one of the coolest things. Like I went to the World Series game when I was in Arizona for Game 5, and I was sitting there and I'm just imagining, like I can't imagine what those guys are about to do.
Yeah.
Like the party they're gonna have, the celebrating they're gonna do. I did it for a AA.
Yeah.
Like,
how much better can
how
it
much?
be?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So it's like, obviously, I could imagine it's probably better. You winning a World Series title. Yeah. That's obviously the pinnacle of the sport. Mm-hmm. So that was awesome. Being able to celebrate. It's funny. We almost kind of took it for granted because we got to like the last celebration. We were on the road in Montgomery, and we had just clinched the best overall record. Yeah. And at that point, we were like, no more bottles, man. Like we were all severely hungover the day after. Like we had one guy fall asleep in the showers on the chair. So it was pretty crazy. But yeah, we got to the last one. We were just like, let's just crack open a couple beers on this ride home, and we'll just call it. We'll call it at that. We're not gonna pop any champagne bottles or anything like that. So I thought that was. Oh, the whole year was awesome. Year was awesome.
Well, good. All right. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I think we pretty much covered most of it.
Yeah.
Probably talked a little too much, but
hey, it's all right. Gives people more to listen to.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been a little while since we did an episode. I think the last one was about a month and a half ago.
And that was with Wyatt?
With Kale.
Kale, that's right. Yeah, I forgot Kale.
Yeah.
And who was before that? What was the kid from that's at Texas State, right? Or was it Wyatt before?
It was Wyatt. Before that was Xavier.
Xavier, that's right. Yeah,
Pettis.
That's right.
But yeah, I know that kind of like an announcement kind of thing. Nothing you guys probably don't already know, but Jose's event is coming December 8th, 9th, 10th, I think.
I think it's that whole weekend, yeah.
Yeah, that whole weekend in December. It's his tournament, and it's his big celebrity softball game and kids home run derby at Whataburger Field. So be sure to check that out. That's really going to be the big thing. I would love to be there, but I get married that day, so I cannot. But,
got a good excuse.
I have a good excuse. As much as I want to be there, I can't.
Yeah.
But that's all right. So that's really the only notable thing. pretty soon here we're going to be emailing some coaches to get like a coach's preview on the season and kind of interview them. So be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, Aaron, it's been a pleasure. I can't wait to watch you throughout spring training this season, whether you start in AAA or wherever you end up. It's going to be fun. I'm happy that we got to talk, and can't wait to catch up again in a couple
Yes, sir.
months, man.
Appreciate you having me.
Thanks, man.
Yes, sir.